Welcome to The Mountain Gardener. This is your host, Ken Lane. We're talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona, and the gardens are flushing. They're starting to come alive. It's exciting to see. Once the flowering trees start to bloom, there's no holding back spring at this point. So you're starting to see these yellow shrubs starting to bloom. That can be one of two things. One, it would be most likely forsythia. That's a classic mountain shrub. It's right there with lilacs, quince. There are several of these that you plant together out in full sun, typically. Now, the sun definition for the mountains of Arizona is during the growing season, if that plant is exposed to 6 hours of sun or more, that's considered full sun because at this elevation, the sun is more intense. And so you'll find that what plants that are rated for full sun in other parts of the country, they might need all day sun out there, but here they might burn or have issues. So really you need to experiment with that, but forsythia loves at least 6 hours or more. Full sun, surround it by rock, have it radiate heat off a wall. Forsythia is going to be happy with that. Grows to about 6 foot tall, head high or so. Blooms, it always announces spring by yellow flowers. The stems are covered in yellow flowers. After that, it'll bloom for about a month. Then the leaves will start to show up. Then there'll be this slow transition from bright golden yellow to green, just this really handsome, glorious, full, thick green shrub. And then it blooms like, or is leafed like that through the growing season. Then in October sometime, it turns this aspen gold color, kind of not quite as bright as the flowers, but darn close to it. And it just shows off again. It's like it glows in the landscape, and then it's dormant. It just goes twiggy in through the winter. And that's a transition. That's what you're seeing bloom right now in the shrubs. There's a beautiful pink flower in shrub form. It's maybe hip high to head high, somewhere in there. It's equally as pretty, and it's got a double flower. The flower is twice as large as a forsythia. It's bright pink to red, depending on the variety, and it has this double flower to it. So it's almost like a miniature rose. Very interesting. That's called flowering quince. Again, it's a shrub. They're companion plants. Needs full sun. Where you plant a forsythia, you plant a quince, you use them in unison together, and they are complementary as far as colors and style and size and water needs and sun needs. They're called companion plants. So the pink flowering shrub you're seeing, from Page to Payson to Prescott to Kingman, you're seeing this at all elevations, is a flowering quince. It's a very tough, drought-hardy, zero-escape kind of plant, fire-wise. It's got a lot going for it. And I find that deer and elk don't eat quince, which is very nice. The trees that you're seeing bloom right now, there's a white tree. It's up about anywhere from 20 to 30 feet, maybe a really ancient one, maybe 35 feet. It's a medium to shorter sized tree. It's got bright, bridal white flowers. That is a Bradford pear or a flowering pear. There's several varieties. Sometimes they're called aristocrat, red spire. They're called there's Bradford pears. But basically, it's a flowering pear tree that doesn't actually put fruit on. It's just a pretty flower that it never sets the actual pear on it. So you get this white flower, get this beautiful, glossy, very bright green leaf that provides intense shade. I mean, it's really good shade for patios, front yards, courtyards. And then the flowering pears, they're the last tree to turn red in the fall of the year. And so it's got this transitional. I think even the bark on the ornamental pears is beautiful. It's not white like an aspen, but it's a very light gray. Very interesting, very good shape. It's pretty. And I noticed too, my hummingbirds love to roost into my flowering pears. The next one that's underneath that, it's a shorter tree. It's blooming pink right now. It's a vase-shaped tree with a very, very dark bark to it. I mean, totally opposite from the flowering pear that has a very light, bright gray. This is almost a black bark. And then it's got covered in pink flowers, which makes it very striking. That's a purple leaf plum. super grower in the mountains of Arizona. Tremendous. I mean, you can't kill it. Animals don't eat it. It's a short tree, up to about maybe 15. They top out in the teen area someplace, just under 20 feet. Vase shaped, perfectly shaped. So we'll use those typically in a raised bed, out by the street, down the walkways, by the mailbox, walk down your driveway because it doesn't overpower the driveway. We'll use them as markers. That's how you use purple leaf plum. Its claim to fame is the pink flowers in the spring, and then as it gets done blooming, you'll see this royal purple foliage just cover the entire plant, and it does not change. It stays that color right through fall, right through October. It's purple, like that fall color year round with this tree. It never has green leaves. Purple leaf plum. That's why they call it that. Great plant for here. I would say it naturalizes quite nicely throughout any garden. So it's a good plant. That's kind of the leading edge. I noticed that downtown Prescott, we're starting to see crabapples crack. They aren't in bloom yet, but I predict in the next week or two they will be full on in bloom. We're starting to see the crabapples bloom here in the racks here at the garden center. There you get interesting red flowers, purple flowers, pure white double flowers. So crabapples have some of the brightest, most intense colors of all the fruiting trees, or not fruiting, ornamental trees, just made to look pretty but not throw off the fruit. I don't think we plant enough crabapples. I'm trying to reintroduce those because they're one of my personal favorites, and I'm trying to bring in more interesting new varieties. The reason you see them downtown Prescott so much is that's the older parts of the community down Montezuma or Whiskey Row. You'll see quite a number of them. Those neighborhoods back up in that part of Prescott, you'll see crabapples, quite nice ones, and mature ones, beautiful crabapples. And so I think you can put some more of those into newer neighborhoods, and you'll be one of the only ones that has a crabapple. Everyone has a purple leaf plum. Everyone wants purple leaf plum because they have this light-colored rock, and they don't want green. It clashes with their beige house, and they want to have a purple leaf plum. I think that crabapples have more interesting character to them. The foliage is more green, though. It's not purple. Some of them can have a purple tinge to the end of the leaf. But that's your flowering crabapples. And then the other one that we are famous for, all genre, from older homes to newer homes. I think some of these literally came across in Conestoga wagons. So there's some ancient, very large redbud trees. Redbuds, now they grow wild. The western redbud grows wild in the Rockies. It's more of a shrub, but the tree form is the one we're most famous for. It acts like the native one. Eastern redbud has a bright pink flower to it. Very short tree, 10, 12, 14 feet tall, maybe 15 at most. It's a short tree. Doesn't overtake. So now you can put it in a container, a raised bed. Out in the front yard by that walkway and that bed by the front door, you can put it there and it won't overgrow its space. It blooms, again, not one leaf will be on this tree. It will be in full pink flower. And then after it blooms for about a month, it puts on the most beautiful heart-shaped leaf. Literally, it looks like, put your hands together, make a heart sign with your fingers, and that's what the leaf looks like. It's that. Comes in a green model, so Eastern redbuds, Oklahoma redbuds. There's several different pink flowering trees with green leaves. And then the forest pansy. It's a new variety of tree. It's got purple leaves, heart-shaped leaf, same leaf, just purple, with a really bright chartreuse pink kind of flower. Very interesting, very unusual, but very tough. Again, animals don't generally eat redbuds. Again, it's in their native environment. They're just trained. Don't eat that. Joe, that's a terrible tasting plant. Leave it alone. Let's move on to the neighbor's photinia. That's a great taster. Let's eat their roses. Let's eat their... But redbuds, they generally don't like. We have a lot in store for you this show. A lot of great garden tips. It's spring. It's planting season. Don't change that dial. Be right back.